Today, I'm going to talk about nihilism and why I think so many former targets of narcissistic abuse turn to nihilism. I'm going to explain why I think that happens. A lot of people who have grown up in abusive homes or experienced severe trauma can fall into the trap of nihilism. After years and years of being beaten down to a zero, being told you are not capable, being told that you are not lovable, people become depressed. People become sad. People become sour. And they lose all hope and meaning. Life becomes meaningless because all they know is pain and unhappiness. They haven't experienced joy, or when they have experienced joy, the pain quickly returns. The pain returns and masks and overpowers these momentary feelings of happiness or joy. Nihilism is when you don't believe that there is anything out in the world greater than yourself. The rejection of this idea that the future matters. So what happens when someone has no meaning in their life, when they have rejected religion, they have rejected tradition, they have rejected heritage, they are rejecting the idea that we still can influence the world even after we're gone? Well, what happens is these people who have embraced nihilism, they can only live for the moment, because that's all that matters to a nihilist, is what's happening right now in this moment, because there is no meaning in their life. And so a lot of nihilists will turn to drugs, alcohol, promiscuous sex, addictions, and it's all about filling the void right there in that moment, because that takes priority over the future, over the possibility that what they're doing in that moment can change their own life and maybe others as well. It's very sad when people turn to nihilism. And I suspect that people who commit suicide do so because of nihilism, because there's no more hope, there's no more meaning to their life. Let's try to understand and accept why someone would turn to nihilism. Why would someone suddenly reject religion or reject any sort of meaning to their life? Just because someone has rejected religion doesn't automatically mean that they are a nihilist. There's a difference there. You can still be secular and, I think, still have a moral code. I don't want to confuse these issues. I'm not saying that in order for you to not be a nihilist, you have to believe in God or be religious. I'm not saying that at all. I'm using that as an example of the signs of nihilism. You'll have someone who cuts contact with their family of origin who has been abusive, then they cut contact maybe with their love relationship, they cut contact with their neighbors who have been abusive to them. Let's say they quit their job because their boss was abusive. There are people who have been abused by everyone around them. That does happen. When they wake up to the abuse and then they say, I'm cutting off contact with all of these people, and rightfully so, because no one deserves to be abused, then they're totally isolated. They're sitting there thinking, wow, everybody that I'm around has been abusing me. Why did God allow this to happen to me? where was God? They start questioning their religion. Or you could have someone who was secular to begin with. They were not religious, but before nihilism, they still believed in something. There was still some meaning in their life. And I'm just going to throw out an example. Like, let's say that there was someone who was really into volunteering at the local library, and they were really into that and helping people learn how to read. They were adding value to the world, and that gave meaning to their life. But someone who is turning to nihilism will then say, volunteering at the library is not enough to give meaning to my life, and it doesn't matter. In the big picture, whether I go there and do that or not, it's irrelevant. It's not enriching my life. And so that is what I'm talking about, this transition that goes on in people's minds from my life has meaning to there is no meaning to life. Anything I do or don't do, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. This is a very dangerous trap for former targets of abuse. And hopefully my examples are helping you better understand why people turn to nihilism. Because they've given up hope, because they've been beaten down. Joy has been sucked out of them, and they're traumatized. I'm guessing that's why a lot of people become nihilists, and they just give up. They just look for escapism, and because escapism is working for them. It's the same thing when we're feeling down. We might say, let's go to the movies and get some popcorn, and while we're doing that, that's escapism. We are escaping from our troubles and our depression and our anxiety, and it's a temporary escape. But we understand that we cannot live in that state of escapism all the time, because it's not really living. It's in the end, when you do return to reality in those moments, the pain is still there. The memories are still there. It's not a solution, in my opinion. And I support planned escapism. I think that it's healthy, and having fun and joking. I don't think it's healthy to be serious all the time and to be thinking to yourself, I'm tuned into reality 24/7 and I'm a very serious person. And I think that is just as psycho as someone who is engaging in escapism 24/7 with drugs and alcohol or addictions. It's like two ends of the spectrum that are not working. I personally, for myself, and from what I've heard from a lot of other people who reject nihilism, like myself, we have shared this idea that really our everyday goal in life is to remain neutral, to be in this neutral space where we remain curious and flexible and open to taking in new information. And from there, you can move into these different arenas of emotions and thoughts and life. And then when you are living your life without nihilism, what happens is when you have meaning to your life, whether it's through organized religion, whether it's through secular means, it's through the dog rescue organization that you belong to, or volunteering at a homeless shelter, or helping people learn how to read at the public library. When we're doing these sorts of things that bring meaning to our life, when we believe that we are adding value to the world, that is the rejection of nihilism. When we embrace values and morals, and we understand that what we're doing today is going to contribute not just to our own personal self-growth, but to others in the future. I hope that this gives you a better understanding of what nihilism is and why so many targets of abuse turn to nihilism. I hope that if you see yourself turning to the path of nihilism, you stop yourself and reevaluate and check in with yourself and anyone else you might know and talk about why you're turning to nihilism. And that will really help you gain a lot more self-knowledge. And that in itself will help you figure out what's going on and what types of changes you might want to make in your life to help transition away from the black hole of nihilism back to bringing meaning back into your life and grabbing onto something that matters and that will help you become a happier person with yourself. Nihilism comes from a Latin word spelled N-I-H-I-L. It's a Latin root that means nothing. It means that which does not exist. Nihilism is extreme pessimism. Nihilism is extreme skepticism. I mean, off the charts. People who have embraced nihilism are people who have no greater purpose to their life beyond momentary pleasures. So if you've grown up in a family who has told you your whole life that you're not capable, you're not lovable, and that you don't provide value, well, it makes sense that that person is going to become a nihilist. It makes sense. Nihilists reject religious principles, religious morals and values. Nihilists also reject secular morals and secular values. Nihilism is about the rejection and denial of universal values. Nihilism is about the rejection and denial of universal objective morality. Nihilists have no allegiance to anyone or anything. The only thing a nihilist believes in or puts any sort of effort into is momentary pleasure. That's it. There is a rejection of the idea that what we do matters. A non-nihilist wants to develop skills. They want to provide value to the world because a non-nihilist understands that when we add value to the world, that gives meaning to our life. And in order to not be a nihilist, you have to be able to identify something inside of yourself that provides value to the world. Even if you or someone you know has embraced nihilism, it's not the end. There's still a chance to transition away from nihilism and to reevaluate who you are and how you're living your life through self-knowledge, through asking these really tough questions. For example, someone who has rejected religion or spirituality, rejected an organization that they used to belong to, let's say the dog rescue group, and they can reevaluate and ask, well, why did I reject these groups that used to bring meaning to my life? And when we start asking those tough questions and really digging into what led us to nihilism, that will clue us in. And most of the time, we're able to pinpoint a time in our life when we experienced trauma. And I suspect for a lot of people, nihilism is triggered through trauma. As always, stay strong and get toxic people out of your life. Thank you for watching. If you gained value from today's video, please give a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I appreciate it. Bye.